Basically, the International Crimes Bill that's before Parliament at the moment does two things. It further criminalizes the crimes against humanity, war crimes and genocide, and provides for mechanisms for accountability. So that's the good part about the International Crimes Bill. The second part, which relates to the intention on creating this new law, is effectively to repeal the implementation of the Rome Statute Act, paving the way for withdrawal from the International Criminal Court. Now, for the South African government to withdraw from the International Criminal Court at a time now where it's critical for accountability mechanisms, not only domestically but on the continent and internationally, would be a misstep on the part of the South African government. It's indeed for that reason why states ought to push for greater accountability at domestic level, because where citizens don't have recourse at sub-regional level, be it at the SADC level for Southern African countries, or at continental level without countries allowing for, let's say, the African court to have this direct access for victims, it does mean that the spaces for justice are reduced. And as we know, accountability is not just about ensuring justice for a crime perpetrated. Accountability is also an integral part of the peacemaking, peace building and peace sustenance agenda. So it's not just about getting someone convicted, it's about people knowing that if a crime is committed against you at home, elsewhere, that people will be held to account for that and hopefully deter other people from committing those same crimes. So a trend where justice mechanisms are reduced on the continent is a negative trend. We need more justice mechanisms, more domestic courts, more regional mechanisms, and ultimately then even the international scheme just serves as an alternative and not a primary avenue for justice. The International Criminal Court was always created to serve as a court of last resort, to serve as a mechanism that essentially complements national jurisdictions. One of the main issues over the past, not 20 years, but over the past 16 years of its operation, is that rhetoric has treated it as if it were the court of first instance. And by doing that, it means you take away the responsibility from states. Any indictment on the work of the International Criminal Court also ought to be an indictment on member states and states that aren't doing their job. If the International Criminal Court has a court role where they are dealing with dozens of cases, that means that national courts are not doing their job. One of the key challenges then for the International Criminal Court is to be able to do the justice it's supposed to do, but also to effectively support domestic systems such that they don't have the burden of prosecuting these cases. But when it comes to the ultimate record of the court, one of the things that people use to assess a court is how many people have been convicted. And that's looking at whether the prosecutions are doing their job correctly. And there have been a number of convictions, but also justice is not just about conviction, it's also about acquittals. So the fact that there have been some acquittals at the International Criminal Court says at least we can see that the judges are doing their job in assessing matters on a fair as well as objective way of doing it. But the work of the court is not easy, and the challenge the ICC actually has doesn't relate to the justice part of it. It relates to the politics of engagement. It relates to the way in which the ICC seeks cooperation from member states. It relates to the way that it seeks to work with the other mechanisms around the court, the Assembly of States Parties, the UN Security Council, even the way in which the presidency of the court engages on diplomatic issues. If anything, the ICC is doing the justice part right, doing the politics. They need a bit of work there. The Africa Group of Justice and Accountability has eminent people, not only people who've worked on international criminal justice issues, but quite significantly also people that have worked generally on criminal justice and on human rights. That means they have a strong voice in bringing leaders, political leaders especially, to listen and to understand the complexities of international criminal justice, the complexities of accountability, because if anyone has done it, it's them. So they're able to use their lessons, their experiences to call for accountability, to call for justice. So they must speak, and they must do it as often as possible, because having a current Chief Justice, having a former Human Rights Commissioner, having a former prosecutor of an international criminal tribunal, people who have worked in these sectors, means that they have the voice, they know what they're doing, they know what they're speaking about, and hopefully people listen.